Hello again, ladies and gentlemen.
Before that,
And we're talking about corporate travel now, business travel. And we're going to be, I suppose, looking at the future of corporate travel and maybe thinking about how it's changed in recent times, where it might be going in the years to come, maybe a little bit about what the, I suppose, current pressure points are in corporate travel. And we've got a great panel here to talk about that. Let me introduce them. Sitting closest to me is MJ. MJ is Global Travel Manager Procurement for Adobe, and he's the only buyer of travel services on the panel. So I did suggest he should sit in front and put the others around him, but you weren't keen, were you? Sitting next to him is Carl. Carl is Head of Travel APAC and Greater China for SAP Concur. And those of you in corporate travel know that Concur is one of the most used corporate travel systems. I think that's right, Carl, isn't it?
That's correct, yeah.
Yep, okay. Then next is AJ. AJ, oh, sorry, right, you're sitting in the wrong seats. I'm just going along the line there. Change seats. You're confusing
the names are changing. It's confusing.
Yeah, okay, I'll manage, don't worry. So Rakesh. Rakesh is Vice President and Brand Leader of FCM Travel Solutions India, and FCM is a TMC, is that right, Rakesh?
That's right.
What does a brand leader do?
So, usually it's mistaken with the brand identity of a marketing, but no, in our case, brand leader is the business leader who leads the brand.
Okay.
And we have multiple brands within the travel space. One of the brand is the corporate brand, so the FCM is one of the brand which I lead.
That's what a brand leader does. And then AJ, you're at the end here. You're Managing Director of BCD Travel India, and both of you, I'd say, are both large travel management corporations, large TMCs. Fair comment?
Yeah, it's a fair comment. Absolutely.
Okay, okay. I mean, maybe MJ, starting with you. And by the way, I'll be very happy to take questions from any of you. Put your hand up if you've got a question, and any time I'll prompt you if nothing happens. Also, all these sessions are going to be on OTM's YouTube channel eventually, so you'll be able to have a little catch up with these later on. MJ, but back to you. How long have you been in your role at Adobe?
So for last 5.5 years, I'm working with Adobe. I actually joined as India Travel Manager, and over the period I have been grown to Global Travel Manager, obviously via Regional Travel Manager. So it's a kind of good experience. But overall, if you ask me, total experience is close to 18 years of experience.
Okay, and in your time as a travel manager, have you seen the nature of corporate travel changing at all?
Quite a lot, because if we remember our old days, we used to sort out the air tickets. It was a paper tickets, and a lot of process has been changed over the years. The experience has changed. The speed of doing business has definitely been changed. So overall experience is like from the paper days to completely paperless, and then now it's a digital age. So it's a great change. And if I compare, if I talk about India, India is something like traditionally, still it's not the same like the other parts of the world when it comes to business travel, because we still believe in having a personalized kind of service. We still believe in having the travel desk in our premises. But still, a lot of changes are happened, and we have come a long way.
Okay, fine. Let me just come over here, because Rakesh and AJ, let me talk to you both a minute, because of course, as I said, you are TMCs, and we were talking a little bit earlier, when we were just standing down there before the panel session started, about the need nowadays Carl, you mentioned this, of duty of care. And I'm just wondering, as TMCs, if you see the travelers from your clients, like Adobe and others, are out there, and there are pandemics coming along, volcanoes exploding, terrorism now and then in London. We had another knifing incident in London, actually, I think, just yesterday. I just wonder how this new duty of care actually affects the way that TMCs go about their business. I wonder if either of you would like to comment on that.
So I'll correct it. First of all, it's not a new thing. Duty of care has been there for some years now, and that's something which any large TMC would want to give it back to their customers, and that's the promise which we give to our customers, that in any case of need, we'll be there. At FCM, as I say always, we are a solution provider, and this is one of the issues for our customers, and we try and find a solution around it. In fact, it's interesting that we've been writing white papers year on year, and this year we chose the topic of duty of care, and we would be bringing it out sometime next month or so, and I'm sure we all can read about duty of care setup and all.
Okay.
Yeah.
AJ, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'll just take from where Mrutyunjay said. So travel has exploded. So is corporate travel. Now, while the travel has exploded, it has become very complex. We have got more countries, we've got more destinations, and we find in our travel business, while technology has taken the front, and that's where the speed and other things which he mentioned, but the duty of care, which we believe is all about finding the well-being of the traveler. It's not about issuing a ticket. It's not about saying that, okay, here's your ticket, here's a document, that's it. But it's here where we also give the assurance to the corporate that we know where your traveler is. We will find them, we'll track them in case of emergency, and we don't even wait for an emergency. We give them alerts in advance. So the technology is so sophisticated that today we know if a traveler is going to a particular destination, we have an alert if there are any challenges in their destinations. So we kind of give them an advance notice. God willing, or if anything emergency happens, we know through their ticket, through the hotel, where exactly they are centered. We have additionally given an app to the traveler, what we call the trip source. That really is one of the very powerful app which allows a traveler to be connected with us and with their company. It's a mobile app which is put on a smartphone. The moment a traveler has taken a ticket, is a hotel, we know where he is. It has got a button on that. In case of an emergency, he presses the button, the message comes back to us, he's got an emergency. So this is what technology has brought to the corporate travel, and that's where the duty of care has taken so much of importance in this fast-changing world.
Carl, your thoughts on this, because actually you're the one who brought up the subject to me just now.
Yeah, and just to add to what AJ says, I think India's at a bit of a tipping point. So I've lived in Asia for 15 years, predominantly in Singapore. I've covered India for about 10 years. And I've really seen the change in the Indian travel market over that last decade, particularly over the last 18 to 24 months when it comes to online and technology. I think one of the critical things is corporate buying behavior. MJ, you may agree because you've seen it, is let's have multiple TMCs. I'm going to have 2 or 3 travel agents. I'll play them off against each other for their rates. I'll get the cheapest transaction fee. I'll nail them down, 5 rupees, 10 rupees. I'll move my business from A to B to C very, very quickly. That is completely contrary to handling duty of care and what AJ's just talked about. If you've got 3, 4, 5 multiple agencies, there is no way that you realistically can locate and interact with your employees quickly. And I completely agree with AJ, the nature of business now is global. We deal with a lot of Indian enterprise clients who have operations in 20, 30, 40 countries, and they want the same platform across the globe. They see the value in that same platform, that same TMC. So really what you're seeing at the moment with travel and technology is, one, what's the platform that will allow you to locate and communicate to your clients, to your employees, sorry, in the event of an issue, and quickly get information to them, and how do you interact with your TMC to get them out of danger? And really that, in the modern world, has completely changed from the standard result of, I just want a transaction fee of 15 rupees and you issue my ticket. And I think that value of the TMC sector combined with technology is something that's really changed in India.
Okay, and MJ, of course, Adobe is a multinational, and the picture that Carl was painting was one, well, wouldn't it be nice if BCD or FCM were actually managing the international Adobe account, then you'd have just the one communication conduit. I just wonder how it works out at Adobe, whether you have a few TMCs working for you across the world, or whether you have a global purchasing contract with just the one travel management company.
Actually, we do. So, being a global travel manager, I manage, my area is all across the globe, and like Carl just mentioned, we used to have this kind of approach where we used to go for multiple TMC and look for the better fare.
Yeah.
Or in a different way, I would say it was like a sentiment of the customer to look for a cheapest fare, and that was the only thing which corporate used to look into. But gone are the days, because now it's basically it's a completely changed world. Most of the corporates are trying to consolidate the whole piece of business, purely because there are so many other aspects which is impacting it, and one of them is duty of care. Because if in case you have the centralized piece of business, you are doing the business with only one agency, it's easy to handle. For a country like India, where we actually pamper our business traveler, culturally we are known to go an extra mile to service them. And that is why we are slightly different from rest of the world. Because if you go in US and UK, and I manage all across the globe, so I know that if there is a VP in UK, he is going to contact the travel management company on the phone or the email, and that's quite okay. But when it comes to India, the same VP is not comfortable contacting the travel management company, because either he is going to talk to the travel management company through his admin assistant, or he would expect some additional services. So, and when it comes to duty of care, actually it's like our job becomes very difficult, because if one of my traveler is being impacted, he will not think twice to raise it to the highest level. And you know, in most of the MNCs, the moment it's all employee-centric industry. Especially I come from an IT industry where the manpower is the key, right? We don't generate anything as a raw material. We have our human brain is our raw material. So for us, it becomes very important to keep our travelers safe, hygienic, and on the road. When we talk about duty of care, we usually talk about that, okay, whether some impact on a terrorist attack or maybe this coronavirus kind of thing. Apart from that, we also have to think that, okay, how much time my travelers are spending on the road. We call it road warriors, right? Think about the sales guys, marketing guys, how much time they spend on the road. So our job is to make sure that they are getting the best of the best fare. They are getting a direct flight options. They are spending less time in the connection points. So suppose I have to go to US, I should not be taking a flight via Bangladesh, which has an overnight stay there. Because the kind of money we pay to our executive, it doesn't make any sense to stay 12 hours at the airport. So I would try and give him a flight which is comfortable, which is less time during the transit point, and he should be safe, secure. And so duty of care is a vast word, and we have to take care of so many aspects. One of the challenge we as a travel manager also face is, we are a mediator. We mostly rely on travel management company, hotels, car rental companies, and we have to ensure everything works seamless, considering the safety and security also in mind. Plus, the larger goal of the organization is to save cost. But that saving cost at what, on what context? Not on compromise on the comfort of our travelers. So over the period, in last 10 years, the biggest change what I have seen is, now companies are eager to spend some more money for a better traveler experience, which was not there 6 to 10 years back. So that's the biggest change which had happened in Indian business travel industry. We are number 7 as far as the data goes in terms of the business travel expense is concerned. India's business travel is very, very bright. Regardless of the global stuff, India business travel is going to go up. We are expecting by 2023, we are going to be on number 6 position worldwide. And if you'll be surprised to know the kind of potential we have. Number one is China, which is close to 380 billion US dollars. And right now India is at 39 and we are number 7. So the gap is big, but the growth is only coming out of India or Asia Pacific, I would say.
Okay, thank you. I mean, AJ, that was interesting. That mention of how business travel is changing, and I started on duty of care because I'm not sure that it was a big concern a few decades ago. I just wondered if you've got any more thoughts, AJ, on how business travel is changing. I'm just mindful of the title of this session is called "How Business Travel is Being Rebuilt." Was it ever falling apart?
Yeah, no, I think, you know, the title is very interesting. So it all depends where you want to start from. A travel is a travel is a travel. Travel was there 50 years back, is going to be there for the next 100 years. But what is really happening is it's kind of becoming a kind of commodity. You know, you can actually track, and today it's not only about the ticket, it's not about the fare. Why I respect Mrityunjay when he says he's looking at the lowest logical fare, and you know, that's how, and the comfort. But I think it's today also how the companies are looking at corporate travel from the data point of view. I think data is becoming very important. It's very critical. While you will issue tickets, but how do you manage the data? How you preempt the data? How you filter the data? How you get value out of the data? Your loss savings?
Yeah, great.
You know, it's so important, so critical. Your policy compliance, it's so important and so critical. Because these are the factors which a company would be looking into it with a microscope. So these are a couple of things. Besides, I think, you know, there are two factors on the corporate travel. One is from the corporate perspective, they have their 10 commandments: compliance, duty of care, or we want cost savings, lowest logical fare, and so on and so forth. On the other side, we have to take care of the traveler because he's the most important factor, because it's a comfort. He needs to have information, communication. So these are the things which is becoming, and today if there are more and more mobile apps are coming, they are targeting the traveler to keep them up to date. Like we are, you know, again going back to by the mobile app, a traveler knows the moment we book the ticket, he knows his itineraries on the mobile app. He knows what are the timings. Before he goes to the airport, he knows what is the check-in time. The app also kind of gives him a hint that have you checked in? Have you got your boarding pass? If he goes and if there is a gate change, it says that, you know, there is a gate change. So these are the value additions which corporate travel is emerging. Unlike last where traveler was to do everything on his own. But here the technology is supporting the traveler in giving them an information in advance. So it makes his life comfortable. What's my job? My job is to make sure a traveler is comfortable. What is my second job? I want to make that Mrityunjay is happy, because he is the man who is responsible at the end of the day to the management to give them the data on the savings and other things. So this is kind of a little bit of evolving which is happening in the corporate travel from my perspective.
Okay. Rakesh, yes.
Yeah, I just want to add, for me, travel is a travel, yes, but let's define what corporate travel is. A travel which is enabling business for a corporate is what corporate travel is. So our job is to enable their business and bring it to better heights and bigger heights. And in the same context, that's where the duty of care started. I would say long back, around 7-8 years back, when there was a governance set up from the US that you need to take care of your people. And that's where this concept of duty of care started building a lot more. And now organizations do understand that, yes, for us, our people are important, and let's spend some more time and money on that. And I agree with Mrityunjay. So now the price is not what cheapest or so, or maybe the saving, and we keep talking about to our customers, let's not talk about saving, let's talk about optimizing the spends. And that's what we should be giving back to them. In the corporate travel setup, the needs and the demands have changed, I would say, leaps and bounds. We used to issue tickets by hand, as he said. and now everything is e-tickets, or traveler can issue the tickets themselves. What are we enabling? How can we add more value? How can the corporate travel change? And that's what we're discussing right now, is right from the life cycle of a traveler, which is requesting for a travel, to the expense part where people like Concur, SAP Concur helps us there. That's the entire setup which we are running now, and that's the end-to-end solutioning which we are working on.
Fine. Tanya, can we have a microphone just, Tanya? Tanya, can we have a microphone here, please? Thank you. While the microphone's on the way to this gentleman here, Carl, do you find that the technology has had to change a lot to actually deal with a changing way in which business travel, corporate travel is being done?
Yeah, I think everybody on the panel has touched on a little bit about how things have changed. I completely agree with concepts like data. If you think about a corporate travel program, you might be spending, say, I don't know, let's put a figure in, $200 to $20 million globally, and everybody focuses on the transaction fee, and that may reduce your cost. But in fact, you could probably save 10% on a fully compliant program with the right hotels, corporate deals on airlines. So you could save a huge amount more by managing your program really, really well as benefits such as duty of care, which is why organizations, the quality of Adobe, have one TMC and one provider globally. So I think that's number one. I think number two, getting a platform in. You touched on AI in the first couple of sessions. The future is managing this data and manipulating this data. So at the moment, an online booking tool allows you to see the fares, it ranks them, it strips out any that are not in your corporate policy. We haven't really touched on policy, but for me, my definition of corporate travel is travel that is filtered through a corporate policy. Right, that's all travel is, that's the difference. But it has huge implications on how you book your flights. If you go on Expedia.com, you can just choose whatever you want. It's point to point, you just choose your flight. If you go on your corporate website or your corporate online booking tool, that choice may or may not be there. Your corporation may have taken out the Bangladesh stop for duty of care reasons. So you're not necessarily seeing either the cheapest flight options because your corporate may have chosen to take them out. Or you may see options that you are forced into that you may not necessarily want to take yourself. But that filter, that online booking tool experience is going to improve, number one, and certainly we're investing a lot in that. But also, number two, once that data's in the system, it enables that booking process to be completely, we touched on artificial intelligence, allows you to start to make decisions that you might not be able to. So for instance, if you know, and most travel counselors will know, certain airports are bad to transit through, right? The transit time is not fast enough for you to get from A to B. That's a manual process. Most travel counselors, if they're on the phone, will sort of filter out. How cool would it be if your online tool automatically does that for you? So pulling in these sources of data around different elements, I think is really key. Things like weather delays, disruption. The flight you're going to choose is traditionally an hour late. You might not know that data. You could try and dig it out by going on the airline website or certain other sites. But I see that the technology will start to become a conduit to pull this data in and to start to make you improve your decisions. So that's where I see the future. But the beginning is, let's get the foundation. Let's go from just an offline telephone email to trying to get this technology in, and let's build on that.
Okay, thank you, Carl. A gentleman here has a question. It'd be very helpful if you can tell us where you're from to put your question in context.
Can you hear me?
Hold it very close.
Can you hear me, guys? So my name is Arshad, and I'm from SAP Concur. And Mrityunjay, my question is to you, since you handle multiple markets, how easy or difficult is it to mandate a travel policy? And how do you, control leakages? And does your TMC kind of help you in doing that? So that's my question to you. Thank you.
So the question was about how you having multiple TMCs and how
multiple countries.
My question is that how do you manage the travel policy mandate in multiple geographies? And how do you control leakages in the program? And how does your TMC help you in doing that?
So basically 3 questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
But I will answer all of them. So first question is like how you manage the travel policy. So even though we are a global company, but we actually have a local touch, and that if you are not flexible enough to accommodate the local requirement, you can't push the same travel policy in US and India and rest of the world. So policy definitely will change. The larger policy remains the same, but we slightly tweak the policy to suit the requirement of the local market. Like in Japan, we cannot force a global online booking tool because in Japan, Suchonavi, which is a local tool, will work better. In China, we have to work with some local tool because that is more in demand. People understand that technology more. So obviously, the larger travel policy remains the same, but when it goes to different geographies, we slightly make some changes. The guideline is the global travel policy is the benchmark, but keeping that in mind, you can build your own travel policy. It can be more restrictive, but it can't be more flexible. So that's how the logic works, and that's how the larger corporates works. The first answer of your question. The second you asked is whether leakages. So leakages is like one, we definitely rely on the TMC data, but we won't only rely on TMC data. Because we believe that, okay, that is not sufficient to track the leakages. And we have 3 data points. In business travel industry, if you largely go and see where the data is coming from. And again, I will talk more on data because data is very important nowadays. Data is everything, I would say. Being a procurement guy, data, I use the data for my negotiations also. It gives me a power that, okay, how much hotel room nights I generate in a year in which all hotel groups. So when I go to the negotiation table, I utilize the data in my favor because I know my potential. I know that how my hotel sales is going up year on year. So I actually know that, okay, how I can shift the business, which supplier I can target. But coming back to leakage is something which cannot be tracked only by TMC. TMC has no clue if my traveler is booking directly going to the website. That can only be tracked when I am pulling out and combining the data from my expense management tool. Because number one, you are a business traveler, you are on business travel, right? The moment you do the business travel, you are definitely going to expense it. So if I am purchasing a ticket on a Indigo website on my own without informing my travel management company, they have no clue how the transaction is happening, who is traveling. So leakages is more risky here because it again impacts the duty of care. The moment you are not following the process, the moment you are going out of the security net by booking it directly with the hotel or airlines, actually my company, we are not able to track our employee. So that's a bigger risk than the leakage. So leakage is very important for us. What we do is we mix the data from the expense management tool, expense management data and the TMC data, and then we combine it and then we can find out. Because any case you have to go for expense, and that's where we filter it out who are basically the defaulters, and there is a different process. That's how we handle it. Your third question, TMC. TMC definitely try their level best because we go for a joint road show. We try and educate our travelers with the help of the TMC because we try and sensitize our travelers. It's a kind of education forum. Any policy will not work if you impose something, right? So the best approach is go and work with your TMC, have a joint meeting, try and understand the travelers' grievances also, how they feel. Are they happy with the current travel program, or is there any scope of improvement? So that's where TMC comes in picture, and their program managers, account managers work closely with people like us, and we try and improve the experience. It's a joint effort end of the day.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sorry, can I add to Mrityunjay? Thank you very much for saying that, but let me a couple of things which we can do. So there is something, the moment you have a travel policy, which is loaded into the system, so it's across board. We have a profile management. So every traveler has got a profile with all the cost centers. The third is a pre-trip. Now before you actually go for the ticketing, there is a pre-trip which happens. You load the pre-trip, in less than 90 minutes, the data is loaded to what we call as a tool called decision source, which goes with like Mrityunjay will have that access to the decision source, and he will know who has done the pre-trip. So all the policies compliance can happen. Assuming that is passed, the next thing which happens is through this MIS or data management tool, we track the policy compliance, we track these cost savings, and we also track any other nuances which you want to give us. So just to support the corporate companies, the moment we know the whole matrix of that, the same thing is through the technology is embedded into our system, and there is a collaborative effort and instant information which goes back with the reviews. So we are here to support the corporates through technology and through our information.
Okay, thank you. Let's take another question from this gentleman here.
Hi.
No.
I'm
Hold it very close.
Hi, I'm Sandeep Shastri from Sabre. Actually, it's a question which is quite relevant to everyone in the panel. You know, when we look at corporate travel, we tend to always focus a lot on air transactions, on airline bookings, and so on and so forth. I actually think that there's a huge opportunity for us to look at lodging, and you know, when we were talking about policy compliance and comparing it with expense data, is there an initiative that is on to try and drive the next evolution of corporate travel to focus well beyond just simple air transactions, but going into the full elements of corporate travel, which is not just air, but hotels, restaurants, cars, a whole bunch of expenses that the corporate traveler is incurring.
So actually covering the whole trip.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Rakesh, you got any thoughts on that?
So I'll take it, Sandeep. So I would say we started almost, can you hear me? We started almost 5 years back on the same direction. And I agree with you, air is something which you used to sell earlier, and that's not the end-to-end setup. And as I said, we look at the entire structure of the traveler, the entire end-to-end journey. So right from the requesting to end expense. In between, there are many aspects, whether it is cabs, whether it is hotels, lodging, restaurants, etc. So far, we've been able to add an angle in each every place. We've had a setup or a product for almost each and every aspect for the traveler. We are yet to make a solution for restaurants and all, but that's something which we are working on. That's something. But otherwise, anything to do with the traveler when he's traveling abroad for the corporation, I think we've covered everything, and that's our key. We are going to work more in that direction. I would say, in my team, in our team rather, more than 70% of the KPI runs on other direction rather on the air only. That's the focus we're bringing.
I think as well, we've touched a little bit on usability, and what I think one of the elements we've sort of skirted around is why do people go beyond or go outside traditional channels? Normally they think they're getting something cheaper or the experience isn't as good. So what we believe in Concur is how do we improve the experience of, say, expense management? So for instance, here I took an Uber from my hotel to the exhibition center. We've connected Uber as a partner of ours, so their app connects with the Concur app. The receipt's already in my expenses now. I don't have to do anything. It pays off on my corporate card. So at that usability of trying to pull in restaurants, trying to pull in hotels, the receipts automatically flow in. The receipts can pre-populate your expense report. That level of automation is where we see. And so we're trying to grow our partner system to make it relevant to the individual market that we're in. Because in India, Uber is very popular, but in other markets, it may be another ride transportation service. So I really believe, Sandeep, that what we're going to see over the next few years is this interconnection of technology so that you start to pull in the data, and then that data can then be used in another app. So just one final point is we partner with a company called TaxBack International, or VAT IT. There's two organizations. And the information you have in your expenses can automatically pipe into them, and it can save your organization a considerable amount of money if you partner with them, because all of that GST and VAT information is already in the system and therefore already with them. We're not GST experts, but we have the data that can pass through easily to a partner. So I think you're going to see this interconnectivity come through a lot more, where you've got a foundational platform talking to lots of different platforms.
So it's interesting, and you're from Sabre, aren't you? Yeah, so let's just...
Paul, I need to answer this. He's a good customer. I like him. Can I answer this question?
Okay.
First of all, travel is not just air. And as a TMC, we are looking at end-to-end travel, which is air, hotel, transport. Restaurant is something I'll just park it because it's a very wide subject. When we are talking of a corporate policy, it completes air, hotel, and others. When we are giving a service, it's for air, hotel, and others. The technology has enabled us to bring this under one roof. Earlier, there would be an air agent, there would be a travel for a hotel, transport. No. Today, a technology allows a consultant to make everything on a single click of button. Whether he's just booking an air, he's booking a hotel, and through an app which we have. In fact, Sandeep, I wanted to give you my app. Take this app, you can make on your own an air booking or a hotel booking and a transport, which is what the empowerment which has happened to the corporate travel. It's very important because we cannot be compliant, we cannot be do a duty of care if we are just doing an air part. Because it's so important that we need to know where the traveler is staying, what transport he has taken. Because when the calamity happens, he may not be in the air, he may be right there sitting in the hotel. So it's a combination, and I think every TMC today is very much alert of this, and that's where the solutions are there. So you can always contact me.
I'll just add, Ajay, actually, I slightly disagree on the part of the restaurant part, because that's also a larger part of the policy itself.
It's a larger part.
Correct. So it definitely comes because, as you said, a traveler can be anywhere. He can be in the restaurant as well. Yeah, but that's something which we have to find a solution right now.
You cannot track the million restaurant, but you can definitely track the 100,000 hotels. Well, that's the only difference.
We've got to close in a minute, but let me just touch on something. I was going to talk more about the GDSs, but I think I'll move on, so you've been saved. There's managed travel, which you all represent, and there's unmanaged travel, which a lot of people do. You're painting such a rosy picture of managed travel. Why do you think that actually we have businesses that have unmanaged travel? What's the advantage to them of unmanaged travel that they wouldn't want to use you?
I think it depends on the segment. So if I look at, say, Australia, there's two major carriers, realistically, right? If you count full service. So most organizations at the small, medium enterprise level don't really mind which one you fly on. So you'll fly on Qantas or Virgin for your points, right? So there's less of a consideration of point of sale price comparison versus, say, India, where point of sale price comparison is actually really important. Most companies I've dealt with in India want to make sure that their travelers are choosing the cheapest option within policy.
So couldn't they just use Skyscanner or some other flight aggregator app?
Well, that's what a TMC will do exactly the same. A TMC will provide the cheapest option and the cheapest flight.
Yes,
so
but they're not charged for it.
It's just an online travel agency has a perception of choosing the cheapest, but they're generally restricted tickets or they're generally point-to-points, which may not necessarily be what the traveller requires in corporate, which is multiple destinations within a policy and flexibility to change that ticket if things change. So I think there's that element of what is leisure travel, which is point-to-point, simple, cheap, and what is corporate travel, which is generally a bit more flexible. And as the guys have said, talking about where does duty of care lie? How does your company find you? If you've booked on Expedia.com, you have no idea of how your company's going to find you if something happens. They don't even know you're on a business trip, potentially. That said, what we try and do, what we believe as well in Concur is, how do you allow people to book on these indirect channels, but the data still comes in? So we have partnerships with airlines and hotel chains, and those guys, you can book on their website and that data flows into the Concur ecosystem and flows into your expenses. So it's about that choice. Some companies say, no, I don't want that switched on. Some companies go, I do want that switched on. And I think that choice element, Paul, is where the industry needs to go. How do you open it up to make sure the data's in?
Thank you. So just to sum up, and just maybe starting with you, MJ, just to sum up, where do you think that corporate travel is heading in the next few years? Perhaps I'll ask you all that question. MJ, I'll start with you.
No, as I told you, the future of corporate travel is definitely bright. We are expecting the corporate, like 8 to 9% year-on-year growth is expected in India. So I can confidently say that in another 10 years in business travel space, it's outstanding. for India, Asia Pacific. Overall, global level, there will be some ups and downs because China is already number one. And they will remain number one for another like 5 to 10 years. But there are some new players are coming, like Brazil is coming, South America is coming up really in a good way. In Asia Pacific, apart from India, the growth might come from Korea. Japan will grow. If we talk about Europe, Germany and UK is expected to grow after Brexit. So there are so many stuff going on, but yeah, Asia Pacific will remain strong. And in India particularly, the business travel future is great. I will quickly touch upon, I would like to touch upon your question, earlier question, that non-managed travel. The startup culture now, which is pretty dominant in a country like India, they really don't care that how travel is happening, because the whole intention is to grab the business, expand the business multi-folds. But once they reach, they have to come back to the managed business travel. So there is a lot of opportunity
So it's
for
an evolution.
our teams. Yes, initially, in an initial stage, they don't care how their employees are traveling, but once they become big, and that they become big very quickly, because like 2 years, 1 year, 1.5 years, they become big, and then that's when they start thinking of switching it over to managed travel.
Thank you. Carl, your thoughts on the future of corporate travel?
I think you'll see a lot more digitization in the India market going forward. I think you'll see the role of a TMC, and AJ and Rakesh have both talked about it, being more service and the services that can be added on rather than just a ticket issuer. And I think you're going to see consolidation probably in the TMC world, particularly in the more domestically based TMCs over the next few years. So I'd expect that. I think your airline industry is quite different to most airline industries around the world. I think you'll continue to see flux. I think the role of GDSs is being challenged, but I think they're partnering very well. There's a shout out for Sandeep. I think they're doing very well in terms of guiding organizations through. So I think you will see this digitization over the next few years. I think it began about 3 years ago, really. And I really do think it will accelerate as things go on.
Thank you. Rakesh, your thoughts?
I quite agree with Carl. It's going to be led by technology, sure. But as of now, we already started calling ourselves, we don't call us as TMC, we call us as TCS now. It's not the new tax of union budget TCS, but it's more like travel consulting and solutioning. Sir. I think that's what is going to happen slowly and gradually. We will not be only managing travel, but giving consulting and solutioning to the customers. And as I said, our main job is to get more for the customers. How can customers get more customers through their travel? And that's what we want to do.
Thank you. AJ?
Let me summarize. I think Mrityunjay said about the growth of corporate travel, which is going to happen because India is a growing market. Carl spoke about digitalization, which is already happening. If you see today, digitalization is the name of the name of the game today. While TMC is giving a lot of solutions, so we are bringing in technology. We are taking support from Concur on the expense management, and we are creating an end-to-end travel experience. But I think what I also see a growing part in, which is very important, the empowerment of the traveler. Today, a traveler wants more empowerment. And when I say empowerment, it says that, you know what, I need to choose what I need to travel within the parameters of the corporate travel, within the technology. Yeah. But hey, you know what, I want to choose. And he needs a technology platform, he needs a solution, he needs, I want to travel this airline. Is it compliant? Tell me now. I want to go on this. So he needs more on his hand and a mobile app which empowers him to decide his travel within the parameters put by the company. I think that's the future which I'm seeing.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank the panel very much. We've got MJ, Carl, Rakesh and AJ. Let's thank them all very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
I hope guys you enjoyed it. Huh?
Nice.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.